You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
Welcome into On My Block Podcast, a Green Bay Packer podcast with myself, Ahman Green, and my good friend and teammate, Mike Wall. Man, Mike, how you doing, man?
Happy to be here, buddy. We're back in we're only a couple weeks away now.
Right,
a couple weeks away from action. I love it.
A couple weeks away, that kind of like quiet, dead. It's like quiet for the storm period, and not a lot going on. Maybe a few transactions for teams, but for players' sake, veterans, they're they're probably in their heavy grind last couple of weeks where they get that game face, team face ready to, getting their mind, body, soul, everything ready to go. Family set up wherever they're going to go in the next couple of weeks, because we know come usually training camp start days with July 19th through
it's like 22nd. 26 now for like the teams, for most of the teams as early as the 19th and the 22nd, I think, for some of the guys who have new coaches. But I don't know about you, man, but I used to look at the 4th of July. We talked about this before a little bit, but 4th of July, like get it all in, have a good time. And then like somebody said it on Twitter this morning, one of the strength coaches I follow was like, realize now for everybody else, it's like it's start of summer, everyone's having a good time. But for NFL guys, like you have 3 weeks before it gets real.
Yep.
And it was always that time where you kind of your personality starts changing a little bit. You like my wife used to tell me I start getting a little bit meaner. She's like, man, you're a little bit meaner around the house. She's like, get edgy. I'm like, it's just kind of getting your mind right. But for guys like you and me, the training didn't necessarily I changed training a little bit because I wanted to do.
It didn't slow down. It didn't stop. Right.
But it didn't stop. But I was just kind of thinking. I was talking to some of my other buddies offline, and I was like, I wonder how long for guys that are just kind of regular workout guys, and they get done with like the second OTA mini camp, and they disappear for that month and a half.
Right.
I wonder how long they feel like it takes to get ready for training camp, especially now with training camps a little bit easier than it used to be. I wonder if I just wonder what I know that the new one of the new conditioning tests for linemen is they have to run 25 yards back and forth 6 times for 150-yard shuttles. They got to do 5 of those, and there's a certain amount of time and everything. Okay. So there's a little more change of direction than we have to do. But
I like that.
Aside from that, the training camps are so easy. I just wonder how nervous some of these players are about actually being in great shape for camp. I know you and I are worried about being in great shape, but I don't know if it feels that. I'm not sure they feel that same way.
I'm the same way with you. I mean, because when I think of training camp, I think back to the day, like our time when it was a subtle dread you knew was coming, and from this time on the year. So it's like, okay, that little gut in your chest, in your stomach is your body telling you, okay, are you ready? Are you physically ready? And are you mentally ready? Because it was a task. Those 2 days, we probably had 1 day of walkthrough. And then after that, we were full go. Yep. We went, it was day 1, we check in and we have like a nice little, here's a walkthrough hat day. But then that next day was full 100% hitting drills from top to bottom. So that mindset was definitely, we knew what was on what was on the line. Now, like you said, it is a padded 1 day, and then 5 days later, then you're back in pads again. So it's a different process for how things going. And right now, like I mentioned, we're kind of in this quiet time, but right now our sponsors for BetOnline, thank you for supporting the show. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports information. So find out all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA Finals and NHL. Both have finished. You got championships in both. You got the Golden State. I was in Colorado. Actually, the day I landed, Mike, the Stanley Cup game was happening. It was the last 3 to 5 minutes of the game. Me and Tony, Josh Dowse was listening in. And it was just cool. It's cool to hear that. And this is a NHL playoff where I actually paid attention. I actually watched some of the series, some of the Maple Leafs early rounds, stuff like that. And it's a sport still. I wish I had it in my neighborhood. I would have played the sport and go on from there. So Enforcer for sure. So also Major League Baseball fights, and even next season NFL futures, which like what we're going to talk about right now in the show. And so BetOnline is your continuous source for all the sports wagering needs, including live betting and on your favorite Vegas casinos and poker games. So it's super easy to get started. So head over to the website and on your mobile device to join and type in the promo code BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. So BetOnline, where the game starts, Mike. So
I'll tell you what. One thing we didn't. I don't know how much we talked about the Warriors winning the championship, but obviously you talk about the NHL playoffs.
Right.
One thing that I thought was really amazing, and it's just like a good lesson for athletes, is you see in the beginning of the Golden State Warriors playoff or finals push.
Correct.
And Draymond Green's playing not very well.
He's playing so. Even his mom checked him.
His mom checked him on Twitter, right? But I tell you what was like really is kind of an inspiring thing, I think, for athletes to understand is like you are the one responsible for your situation and nobody else. Mm-hmm. And what he does, he goes online, he goes on his podcast, he gets into interviews, he owns up to everything. He's like, yeah, dude, I'm not happy with what's going on, but like, coach is making a decision. He's not making any excuses. He owns it. Then the last 2 games, he goes out and he balls. Like he makes a huge impact on the game. That's what a pro does.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And even though he doesn't have the skill set of some of those other guys, his skill set is somewhat unique. But the way that he can affect the game, his floor vision is, he's a floor general, he's a leader. Yep. His effort, like you said, his defensive presence. Like I just really like watching people who have that struggle, own it, and then just make that immediate change. Like your mindset just immediately goes, okay, I know what the issue is. I'm going to make this work. And in a game like basketball, you can kind of do that because you can affect the game without scoring. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I always like those kind of stories. There's a lot of other stories in that game as well. But, man, Draymond keeps on being that guy.
100%, I agree. I mean, because you don't see that a lot these days. You don't see guys saying, you know what, own up to it. Y'all got me. I'm not going to fire back. I'm just going to go do my job. And that's what he did. And to have what I would like about it also is the fact that, being the floor general along with another one, they got 2 on the court. They got Steph, and then if Thompson has his game together, then that's 3 guys in the building that can help run that offense. But him being more of the physical presence that did his Rodman, just kind of a new age Dennis Rodman, get crash, cause havoc, but also play offense and play defense too. So I like that part of his game as well. So let's get into our Packer news. So we had that, like you have on there, 4th of July is the time to change, to get that mindset ready. We talked about that already. So now we're going to go in and talk about the first 8 games of the regular season that these boys are going to face starting off in the division. So bring it up with a real quick point. They're starting the season in the division and they ending in the season in division. So we got 2 games versus in division opponents, Vikings and Bears, and they end the season, I believe, with the Lions and the Bears, or Lions and the Vikings leaving out the season. So I thought that was a nice little interesting. So you got Detroit and Minnesota at the end, and Minnesota and the Bears to start with.
It's kind of nuts too if you look at, I was just kind of going through the first 8 weeks of the season,
right? And
it really is like the coaching carousel hit us at every stop. It feels like,
because
you got
Minnesota,
you got Vikings,
yep.
You got the Bears, you got the Bucks, although Todd Bowles, but it's a kind of different situation.
Yeah.
The Giants with Daboll, second year with Salah and the Jets, the Commanders, obviously, but we can talk about that forever.
Yeah.
You got a new OC with the Bills, but listen, just starting out with the Vikings, like this is always a tough game. You're at the Vikings.
It is.
You got Kevin O'Connell's the new head coach. Obviously had a lot of success with that offense out there in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. I think the Vikings are like perennial, massive underachievers. Like they have if you look at their roster, they have a solid roster. They have this quarterback that's made like more money than up until this year. He's probably made more money than anybody in the last 5-7 years.
Correct.
But like, how do you you just always underperforming? Like, how do you get over the hump? I think their offensive line is not great. We'll get into that a little more later. Mm-hmm. But can they keep the pressure off Cousins? Like, can Dalvin Cook be more of the offense now? Like, I think defensively they got some pieces. But I don't know, man. If I'm nervous, I'm probably most nervous about the first game of the season than I am any other game of the first 8.
Yeah, because it's the first time everybody in that locker room, because we know the vets have been sitting on the shelf for preseason. So they're both sides of the ball, Packers and Vikings, are now going to see their first team players really go 100%. And as we saw last year, coming out, especially with the holdout with Aaron, we saw that game, that Saints game wasn't great. They played, not even up to par the next game. And the game after that, they started to show, the team that they were come the end of the year. I'm saying with you right now, especially with this weight training camp, we already mentioned weight training camp is structured now. It's more fit. Obviously, it's taking care of the players, but it's not getting them ready for that full on head-on speed. So this game makes me, I won't say nervous, but yeah, if there is going to be a game to drop, this would probably be the game that they probably get punched in the chest for because it's the first game of the season, and there's a lot of question marks going into this game.
Okay, so if you're doing a win-loss, I'm just gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna take an L right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna take an L too. I'm with you.
I'm gonna write them down. See where we are at the end of this. So, second game, Matty Blufus, new coach for the Bears.
Yep.
Really, the story is all going to be about Justin Fields, right? And how he developed. He's one of the biggest unknowns in the league still, because he just really didn't have the weapons around, didn't have the offense, didn't have the coaching staff around to really help him be successful. So does he the kind of guy that changes the franchise on offense? And then on defense, definitely. Robert Quinn was that guy last year, and he's not showing up. He didn't show up to offseason.
Oh,
he probably doesn't want to be there. I mean, I know he's a really, really good dude.
Yeah.
Right. I have nothing bad. I love that guy. He's an amazing human. He's a great teammate. He's an incredible talent.
Right.
But he probably doesn't want to spend these years in a rebuild. So
that's
they don't have. Yeah, Akeem Hicks isn't there anymore. They have no threat at defensive tackle. Like, you look at their roster, and it's kind of like, dude, how? Like, I don't understand how you're going to be good. For me, I'm taking a W on this one. You tell me, AG.
Yeah, I mean, right now, they did bring in terms of the Bears, bring in a couple weapons. They got Pringle from the Chiefs. They have the first round pick, Jones Jr. from Tennessee. So they got a few weapons right there. But as we know, it's two sides of the ball, offense and defense. For the Packers, I would say nothing really changes much for this game right there for them. So they're gonna look at this. Got a young quarterback still learning his way in terms of Justin Fields, so they could definitely take advantage of that defensively, and then offensively, they still got got a lot of weapons for Aaron to throw the ball. So I agree with you. This would be the first win of the season for the boys, and it being a rivalry, all the hype and all that. Yeah, it's usually along with this game. That's where I put it.
We got Bucks week 3.
Yep.
Todd Bowles
in Tampa, which
in
you gotta remember. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's true, because it's gonna be super hot. It'll be September still, right?
Exactly.
And Todd Bowles did not have success as the Jets head coach. Bruce Arians has moved on into a front office role, and he has been, I think, grooming Todd Bowles to be the guy for a long time. He's part of his core staff that he had, way back when. I think they were together way back, maybe as far as Indianapolis, but Leftwich is still the offensive coordinator. You start looking at, they don't have Gronkowski anymore. Robert Jones has moved on to the Chiefs. Chris Godwin's coming back from an ACL. Ndamukong Suh's gone. He's still a free agent. I don't know if they're going to bring him back. I think they brought Hicks there to replace him.
Yeah, they got Hicks in for him.
But both guards have now moved on, and now I think they brought Shaq Mason in to replace the right guard. But Ali Marpet and
Brady
Kappa went to the Bagels, so Ali Marpet retired, and Kappa went to the Bagels. Ali Marpet was a really good guard. So their offensive line is in flux. We know that getting to Tom Brady is the key to breaking those guys down.
Yep.
So Tom Brady, you don't expect Tom Brady to ever lose, but we kind of expect the same thing for Aaron Rodgers, man. This is a hard game for me as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. I said the only thing that's an advantage is the weather. Going in, even though it is still early September, it's warm up here too in Wisconsin, but it's just a different warm. That could be only for me the biggest difference in the game is how the guys are ready physically to match up in terms of the weather. Game wise, I think this is going to be another. You got 2 games off the jump. 3 games. You got Vikings, you got the Bears, and then now you got these Buccaneers where you got to go to them potentially 1-1, and then a well-led team in terms of coaching and on the field with Brady at quarterback, and then defense, Levante David and Shaquille Barrett leading that defense. So it's not going to be an easy game. This is a coin toss, win or lose here, because Tampa is still a good squad. Majority of pieces are still there. They filled in spots. They're only really light at nose guard on defense with Vita Vea, but he is a guy that's going to continue to cause problems. But just from a health standpoint, having somebody where he could spell, maybe they rotate him in and out. That will probably be a biggest question mark come how the offense for the Packers could get rolling if they could wear that defensive line out. But that's just a wait and see game. Like I said, it's a coin toss for me. If I had to make a decision, I'm just going on I'm going off a home field advantage right now with Tampa Bay. Just being at home, crowd, weather, and then understanding what they need to do early in the season.
I don't fault you at all. I'm going to take the W, but I'm only taking the W because they lost both guards, and I think it's a big deal.
Right.
I just think our D-line is going to cause problems. I know that if you can create pocket presence problems for Brady, and he can't step up, they're going to have issues. Other than that, it could go either way. We got Pats week 4.
Got Pat. So we got my man Mac Jones coming in second season. Very impressive rookie year. Being coached under Belichick, probably no surprise to a lot of people, but for me, just because he's coming in a spot where Tom was once the quarterback, and now he has to make sure he keeps that offense and that which helps the team in general. I say running at a high level, and I believe he did that. So for Mac Jones and that offense, still have you got Devontae Parker coming in, Jacoby Myers still they re-signed him back. Offensively, Hunter Henry, solid guy, just got question mark through injuries last year. So just making sure from the offensive side standpoint, they put up points. They're gonna need that. And then defensively, they've been probably the solid part of the team, keeping it there and making it, making that team interesting come playoffs because they have, Bill Belichick coaching, doing the I say the way that he evaluates players, develop players defensively to make sure they play Patriot football on the defensive side. Matt Judon coming back as well. So I like them as a team, but going against the Packers in terms of veteran leadership, and then quality players in terms of that's where I'm gonna lean way to our guys in terms of getting this win here.
Bill Belichick does a great job of developing players, like you said. Mm-hmm. He also does a great job of developing coaches. And one of the question marks right now for those guys is who's going to be running the offense now that Josh McDaniels has gone to Vegas.
Right.
But it's to me, it's like you might as well put him on the dollar bill and just say trust in Bill, right? Because
right.
because he develops his coaching staff. He keeps a skeleton crew, works them hard, and he's the proof's in the pudding. He's done a great job over the years. So I don't have that many concerns as far as who's going to be, making the play calls, et cetera, et cetera. You do have to look, is Mac Jones going to hit that sophomore slump that a lot of people do?
Right.
And then, really, when you talk about the defense, as solid as we always consider the Patriots defense to be, the Bills gave them the beating of a lifetime at the end of the season last year. Yeah. And we have seen, I don't think this happens with the Bill Belichick coach team, but do you remember when Bill and Tom went down and erased a 28-3 deficit in the Super Bowl versus the Falcons?
Oh, I was at that game.
Okay, yes. The Falcons have still not recovered from that. That was 5 years ago.
Yes, right? They still have
so
not.
When a division opponent like the Bills gives you the beating of a lifetime, like they did at the end of the season last year, dude, I don't know how fast you get rid of that, right? So they might be hung over. This might be one of those. And you look in their division, the Jets are still going to be the Jets. The Dolphins could be. The Dolphins are one quarterback away from being really good, right? Yes, I love that. I love that head coach. So you could look at the Patriots, they're kind of projected third in this division possibly. And I'm always worried about that hangover when a team gets beat that bad. So I'm definitely taking the Packers in this one.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, Mac Jones, like I said, impressive rookie year. Mm-hmm. And defensively, Bill Belichick coach defense, they're going to play well. But it's just that but with Aaron in the offense, and especially by this time of the year, fourth game of the season. Is this the fourth or fifth game of the season? Coming out of Minnesota, or actually, fourth game, coming out of Minnesota, Chicago, and then Tampa game, they'll kind of be getting in, they'll be getting into that midseason stride right there, offensively and defensively. And you said with the defensive front, back to the Brady with the two guards in Tampa being on, also with this offensive line, even though there's a well-coached New England line, Kenny Clark and the rest of the guys up front can cause some havoc for Mac Jones. And he's not a mobile quarterback. He's more a guy that's going to stick in the pocket too, so they'll have a big chance to get back there to get him on the ground. All right.
So we're going to play the Giants at home.
In London.
Oh, that's right. It's in London.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's the home game. They snatched away. The Packer community is upset.
I'll bet they are.
But it is.
It's a great listen. It's actually long term better for the league. I lived in London for a couple of years. I'm telling you guys, you need to grow that market as much as you can. It's only a net benefit for everybody. Mm-hmm. You're going to see some talent come out of Europe, I think, in the next couple of years. And we're already starting to see it, but you're going to see some talent that's actually going to affect some of those rosters. So
and we got Yossi Minora is have on a mission to get African players developed.
Yep.
In his country down there, and so he's doing a good job with that too. I saw a little.
OC's got the thing working for BBC, but they also have there's actually a UK academy over there. The NFL has a UK academy where the kids can go to high school.
Nice,
and they're starting to develop players that are turning into college players. But back to the Giants. Brian Daboll is obviously coming over from the Bills. He had a ton of success developing Josh Allen. It's always tough to understand who gets the credit for developing the quarterback, right? Because we know that Josh Allen's got a private quarterback coach. We know that he does a lot of work. He's got a quarterback coach in building. He's got the, blah 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 blah. But the fact is, Brian Daboll did some great things with that offense.
Mm-hmm.
They picked that Kayvon Thibodeau, the kid from Oregon. He was their first pick, right?
Yep.
Now he showed up. He injured in mini camps. He's the guy that, to me, of all the quote unquote lock top 10 draft picks, is the one with the biggest question mark, because he is so brand aware and so worried about all the great things he's going to do. And then they drafted him to off the field, and then they drafted him to New York. There's no denying his talent.
Correct.
But to me, it just looks like this could be one of those picks where you look back in 5 years and go, oh my God, it went, he's the next Lawrence Taylor, or he's the exact opposite of that. So
correct.
They got a lot of questions there. And then what's the biggest question, AG? Your position, right? Is Saquon Barkley going to be the guy?
Right. And he came in the league game busters. And when the injury happened, now it's just that now it was 2 years from the knee injury. Mm-hmm. And now he's got to get into a standpoint of I got to get back to that stride where I was at, my younger years. I mean, he's still young. He just had it early. So that time is coming. Now he just got to, I say it might be a mental thing, might be blocking him in terms of way he's rolling. Offensively, the line is kind of down the middle in terms of being effective in terms of
we could say poor. You could say poor if you want.
Okay.
You don't have to be nice.
Yeah, a poor O line out there for Daniel and Saquon. I do like the pickup of Matt Breida, experienced running back to help, bring in some run game for Saquon and the offense there. And then defensively is really just Leonard Williams, some guy that pops out of there and came. I agree with you with Thibodeau. He went to Oregon. As we know, Oregon, they have a new uniform, literally new set of uniforms for every game. So that right there, and all the NIL stuff is been rearing its ugly head around everywhere for college sports. So it's going to be interesting. But I'll say for a win, definitely go to the Packers here. The only thing that might slow Packers down is the jet lag. That's about it. Do you think that Daniel Jones is a salvageable project for Daboll? I mean, Daboll's obviously getting hired because they're going, okay, Daniel Jones kind of looks like Josh Allen, right? When he came out, as far as raw athletic ability, maybe not the same arm. Faster.
Well, he's not the same arm and everything, but I'm just saying, how these GMs and these presidents go, oh, well, I want you to do with Josh Allen or with Daniel Jones what you did with Josh Allen. And they're going, and then the coach has to go, oh, I believe in him. I love him. I can do that. Oh, I can replicate that. Otherwise, they won't get hired.
Correct.
But what's your take on, look, we saw Sean McVay come in, and he's arguably the smartest guy in the room right now, right?
Yeah,
not named Bill Belichick. We saw Sean McVay come in and go, hey, listen, I can make Jared Goff, what you guys picked him second in the draft, I can make him the guy. And what ended up happening? He was able to feed him the answers to the test until Bill Belichick found him out in the Super Bowl, and they scored 13 points or 13 points or something like that.
Right.
And then everybody figured it out. And then a year later, McVay's like, I can't run my offense with this guy. But he had built up enough equity with the team to be able to say that. But most head coaches don't get to that point because they're just not as good as McVay is at giving the answers to the test.
Yeah. So I say with Daniel, what I see different from him and Allen is the fact that Allen, like you said, the arm power, Allen's a lot higher. Only thing, if he was any other position, it'd be his speed. But obviously being a quarterback, speed is not a thing, but it does help get him out of trouble. He can move his legs, but I think he still has a little bit of ground to cover to get to that level where Allen is at now. Reading defenses, arm power is not going to change much unless he goes to a guru and increases his arm power strength. But outside of that, he just got to make sure he develops in reading defenses and understanding pressure and how it gets to him and how it, mentally or physically, can take him out the game to make sure he can handle it from that standpoint. Because quarterbacks, once they get hit, then it's a problem, in which we both to figure out.
We both got W's on that one, right? So we're both taking the Packers there, and then we're coming back and we're playing the Jets in Lambeau. So another New York team. And now Roberts, I don't know about you, but Robert Salah, was, I think, one of the coaches I was most excited about going into his rookie year. as a head coach coming out of San Francisco as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I think he's one of those guys where I think as ex-players we go, man, I'd really like to play for that guy. Now this kind of shows you though with the Jets, and I know a little bit because I had a coaching staff that went there, and you just start hearing things about how the organization is run. It's not run very well compared to some other places.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we don't know if he's getting everything he needs from, leadership, organization, resources, etc., to build the program he wants. But on the field right now, they had they brought in Mekhi Becton last year, and the guy's like 365 pounds, amazing athlete. And then they have George Fant at tackle. Okay, Mekhi Becton got hurt. I think they're thinking about switching him back to right tackle now and putting George Fant at left. I think that plays well for them. There's some more questions maybe around the tight end position. But really, when you think about Salah, defensive coordinator for San Francisco, great defense.
Great defense.
They're not very good. The Jets' defense isn't very good.
No.
Right? Like Quinn and Williams, they got a couple guys that can play a little bit, but they're not very good. And that is a little bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. I mean, you got CJ Mosley too, a veteran from Baltimore.
Who I don't know about you, I love that guy, right?
Yeah, no, I love him.
Yeah,
I like him. That's why I bring his name up. But I say, but those are only a couple pieces, out of 11 positions. You got 2 that are actually, manageable or really good players. So it's just now those younger players, those veterans, got to really band together. This is going to be a tough game for the Jets, not the Packers. By this time, Packers are definitely coming out of the woods of playing against a really good team. This is going to be, I say, a softball hit because flying back home, get the jet lag out of your system, and then this will be a good game. Even though they got some solid players, you got Corey Davis, wide receiver, pretty good. You got Bryce Hall, second round draft pick out of Iowa State. That he's going to be able to, do something, but now obviously he's not going to be I say nobody in this game for the Jets. It's going to be, I say, definitely a win for the Packers.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we're at Commanders. That's our 7th game of the year.
Yeah.
Seems like every year you're talking about everything that's going off the field with the Commanders and not
exactly.
on the field, whether it's their naming, what's their,
oh my goodness.
In-house.
As a player, I just want to know, for them, what that conversation is like in the locker room, right?
How do you not distracted? It's such a joke. It seems like it's such a joke year in and year out. How are you not distracted? And listen, this is your job, your profession. You get to live out your dream. I would love to play with Ron Rivera and his coaching staff.
Yes,
Terrell Wharton's the assistant line coach. He was my old teammate. I'd love to be with him. I think they have great people in the building in one section of the building. I think they have great people.
Now they do.
Right?
Yes.
But I think the other thing is so toxic. It's like you just don't know what's going to happen. Carson Wentz is on his 3rd team in 3 years. You don't really want – if I'm an offensive lineman, you're a running back, I think we both agree that we wouldn't want him as our quarterback.
Right.
They played Terry McLeod. Now, is that guy worth the investment? Because he just went from he's probably a $12 to $18 million a year guy to a $20+ million a year guy because of all the prices that were being fetched this offseason. Does that prove worthwhile given the fact that Carson Wentz isn't, he's not a household name and he's making that kind of dough now.
Right.
So we'll see if that pays out. I do have to say, of all the teams we play in the first half of the season, because Chase Young's coming back off the ACL, because they got Montez Sweat, because they got Jonathan Allen.
You like Jonathan Allen.
Oh, man. I think that defensive line is stacked.
Yes.
If Chase Young is healthy, they are. And Chase Young's got to get back to playing the way he did his rookie year. Yeah. Everything speed to power, find the right angle to make that tackle uncomfortable so he opens his hips up and get that long arm in. When you start dancing around at this level, the other athletes are too good. No. But, man, if he gets back to that, I've always liked Sweat. He's a big body, long arms, great leverage player. Yep. Jonathan Allen, we've talked to guys on the podcast that think he's the number 2 defensive tackle in the league.
The league, right.
I think this is actually a very, very difficult game. And I think players play for Ron Rivera and his staff, and I think they have the ingredients at least up front to kind of disrupt what we're trying to do offensively.
Exactly. And then with you talk about the offensive side for the Commanders, Antonio Gibson, he's a quality NFC running back, NFL running back. He picks up yardage. He is a problem if you let him loose. And then Terry McLaren, the wide receiver, he's their number 1 guy that can cause problems because Commanders came here last year, and I was at that game, and it was a good game, and just what happened was just a little mistakes. They had Taylor Heineke, he had to back come in because of injury. he played well. It was a whole big story behind him because he wore number 4. Brett was his guy growing up. So he came here and played well as a quarterback. And as a team, they played okay. But then just the, better players overcame them. They had, Aaron at full go, and now the defense for the Packers playing good to go at midseason turn. So again, the only thing maybe here for the Commanders in getting a win will be the fact that it's midseason. Now Packers played in some tough games. This game will be just one of those games that the Packers know we got to win this game. Regardless of where we're at in our season, this is a must win for us. So that, as a player, you got to take it personal. We can't lose to a team that is struggling in all aspects, on the field, off the field, as an organization. So let's get this win, and then we continue to, push forward for the regular season. So I believe Packers come away with a win here against the Commanders.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you, I'm actually going to give – this is where I think this is one of those trap game L's, honestly. And I'm just going to say because Carson Wentz is one of those guys – Ken Zampese gets if Ken and the rest of the coach staff on the offensive side can convince Carson, like, right, we need you to be that dual action threat that you used to be. We're going to make this real easy for you. Like, we're going to simplify this offense. Yeah, they've historically had a pretty good offensive line. They've traded away some pieces now. I know Brandon Scherf just left, but they've had a good offensive line. The defensive line makes me nervous. Carson Wentz is one of those guys that, like, the bad thing about being part of the Packers is that quarterbacks come in here and they're like, you're going to get their best shot. Yeah. Like I remember, do you remember, I don't remember this game, but we were playing like Philly, and like Coy Detmer or Ty Detmer, one of the Detmer guys was trying to match Brett. Like series for series. Yeah.
It was Ty.
Yeah. For series. And they were doing like, we're looking at each other on the sideline and all that stuff. And I just remember going like, this guy's not even good. Like, he's not even a good quarterback, and he's playing out of his mind, because he's in Lambeau Field. He's playing against Brett Favre. Exactly. And I think sometimes that happens. And Carson Wentz is clearly a talented guy. And, he showed flashes of it last year. He obviously showed 3 years ago. He was damn MVP until he got hurt half season or midseason.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So if anybody can get him right, I'm just seeing this as a trap game. I know it's a tough one, but it might be a trap game.
I could agree with you. It could be the trap because you kind of look at it like, you know what, we got this game. And you kind of unknowingly take it easy. So we'll see. That's what we'll definitely see. We put it out there now in July, just so people know.
And it's because they're looking forward to the one we're going to talk about right now at the Bills, right?
They're going to look ahead to see these guys, because what game is this? This is in Buffalo.
In Buffalo, okay. This is week 9, but the game 8 for us. They just got their new OC, right? Josh Allen's got a new guy. Yep. Von Miller's up there, new leadership on defense. Now they got rid of it was one of my favorite players, number 55 up there. He's been there for years and years.
The backer.
Now Frank Clark. Great pass rusher, but they brought in Vaughn for leadership.
Yep.
Like, I'm really interested.
They got Micah Hyde, real good leader. I'm ready to see Green Bay.
Well, they've got two all-pro safeties, right? I mean, I think they're talking about paying Micah or the other one right now. And it'll be interesting to see. Josh Allen has accounted for so much of their offense. It'll be, with the new offensive coordinator, it'll be interesting to see if we start using a little more running back, right? I think they drafted the kid from Georgia, James Cook.
Yep, Devin's brother.
And then they brought in Duke Johnson from free agent. Singletary's still going to be there. So now they've got some pieces in the backfield.
Zach Moss is still there too.
So they got some pieces in the backfield that can catch the ball out of the backfield, run the screen game, run downhill. So are we going to see a little bit better balance? Look, these guys they finished the series. We talked about how they beat the brakes off the Pats. Yep. They had one of the most entertaining games in the last 20 years against the Chiefs. Right? So we started thinking about how good the Bills are right now, and they're only getting better. I think their pieces are maturing. Josh Allen's going to be that much better. This is a tough game, but I also think this is the kind of game where, like, Aaron Rodgers shows up and is like, I want everybody to remember who the best quarterback in the league is.
I can see that because come this time of the year, this is we're getting playoff push time, right? We're coming into December, I think, we're getting close to December. We're not.
This will be halfway through, right? So this is kind of where
this is October. Yeah, so almost November.
Next week we'll talk about those back 8 games and going to the doldrums of November. But you know how we break down, and I know there's 17 games now. Yeah. But we used to break down everything into quarters, right? So like I want to be basically if we're 3-1 every quarter, we're going to win our division. Yeah. Right. If we that's just kind of how we thought about it. If we end up 12-4, that's 3-1 every quarter. That's how we're going to win our division. I know the math's a little bit different now, but that's how, as players and coaches,
games.
this is how we break down the game.
Yep. And this is going to be a tough game. Buffalo's been playing lights out at home, on the road. It doesn't matter. They have the quality of players in terms of quarterback, running back, and defensively. And that defensive unit is where, obviously, that's where the money's won right there. Those guys, good leadership. Michael Hyde, like I mentioned, he was here. And when he went to Green Bay, he kind of went to Buffalo with the chip on his shoulder because I'm not sure if he wanted back and they didn't re-sign him. And ever since I've seen him on camera, they got checked by the reporter, tried to check him last year. They took that personal, which as a defensive player and a quality of player, understanding, what he needs to do as a safety and what he needs to do as a leader, both safeties were like, what are you talking about? And then you saw that defense just crank it up. So I think they're going to be more excited to have that Packer offense come there and then be like, all right, this is what we could do. Let's show everybody else. Just like Aaron coming in, like, I'm going to be the best quarterback. I think that Bale's defense, because we've heard about Packers defense. They've heard a lot about the Packers defense up front. And then, so now is this going to be their time? They can use this time as their time. Hey, we're a good defense in the NFL. Now we're going to prove it to you playing against these Packers.
It sounds like you're giving the Bills the win.
No, but I just know that they're a solid defense. I've been watching them last couple of years. They've been playing well. Am I going to give them the win? I want to say you're right. I won't give them the win because on the road, and like I said, that Bills defense, nothing against Aaron and that offense, and the guys on defense there in Green Bay, but Buffalo has something. I think they're going to try to prove something here in this game, offensively and defensively.
All right, so you heard it here. I got him at 6-2. You got him at 5-3.
All right.
8 games in. All right, so we'll see how that plays out. Yeah.
I like how you kept tabs too.
Let's get. Oh yeah, I'll keep this. So
I love it because I wasn't writing down nothing. I was like, oh.
Let's just go to just trench warfare and just talk about going into the NFC North division. I just wanted to talk about the best and worst offensive defensive lines or trench warfare guys in our division. Who's at the top of the heap, and are the Packers at the top of the heap on both sides? And if not, who? And then who's? Let's start with this. Who do you think? Who's better? Who's got a better offensive line if we're all healthy? Who's got a better offensive line than the Green Bay Packers in the NFC North? Do you think anybody?
I'm looking at Minnesota Viking right now. No.
Well, let's just erase the Bears. I'm going to give you the Bears starting lineup. Okay, they're probably their best player. Well, Tevin Jenkins is a high draft pick for them. But, Lucas Patrick is going to be their starting center. Oh. Willie Wright, Larry Borum, Cody Whitehair.
Lucas Patrick that was here.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's their best. They're not going to have – hopefully I know they brought a new coaching staff. I don't know. I haven't looked to see who the new offense or their line coach is. But you're going to assume they're better, but I don't think they're challenging with the Packers. The Minnesota Vikings they brought in Jesse Davis at right guard. He came up from Miami. That goes in line with Chris Cooper's their new offensive line coach. I know him from Miami as well. He just spent time under Mike Munchak in Denver. So I don't know how good he's a head line coach is going to be, but I do know he learned from the best. Mike Munchak is arguably, he's one of, if not the best guys in the league. Christian Darius is a first round pick. You just look at this. You look at Garrett Bradbury was a first round pick. So Garrett Bradbury is a good player. He has the potential to be a dominant player. They have Dalvin Cook in the backfield. They have weapons, so they can look better. But it always comes down to can you make those tough yards? Can you get the 3rd and 1s? Can you get the 4th and 1s when you need them?
Right.
This is a good team, but I would actually have them 3rd in the division because I think the next team we talk about, the Detroit Lions, is actually the only one that can rival the Green Bay Packers for the best. I know this sounds crazy, but the best offensive line in the division because number one, they got a great coach. Hank Fraley was a player for he was a center for the the Cleveland Browns amongst other teams. Right. He is a phenomenal coach. When they fired their other staff, guys came into the general manager or president's office and said, "Look, you cannot get rid of this guy. He's that good."
Oh, wow. That was the players came in there?
The players went into the office and said, dude, you cannot get rid of this guy. And he was the assistant at the time.
Wow.
You cannot get rid of him. He's that good. So he's one of the best guys in the business. They've got, first round draft picks, Taylor Decker. Obviously, Penei Sewell is going to move over to right tackle. Frank Ragnall was hurt last year. He's one of the best centers in the league, if not the best.
I know that guy.
So it's just a question of are we going to have everybody healthy? Is Sewell going to make that jump and become the player that everybody thinks he could? He did not look good at right tackle last year. He actually looked better.
He struggled
against this, like the LA Rams when he played left is probably his best game. But you see the athleticism, another year under his belt with a good coach. He could do a lot of damage. I think Degler has been more than serviceable as far as players go. He's not a Bakhtiari, but nobody is. Right. So I think this is actually a really good offensive line. I mean, I really, really like them as an. I like that room as much as I like anybody in the league. Right.
Yeah, you got guys that can run block, that can pass block, and you say the ability with Swell right there, just to kind of come out of that cocoon to flourish, basically start to bloom and show what he can do. From a right tackle, left tackle standpoint. It sounds like left tackle is a stronger position for him.
Well, you wouldn't think so, but I mean, I'm just saying intuitively, you'd go, okay, well, it should be easier over on the right side because of tight end help, etc.
Right.
But what happens? Look, you come in the rookie year, everything's different. And you've been working on one set with your offensive, your private coach, and now they tell you to go play the other side, and your mind's going, you're getting jumbled and whatnot. You get back to what feels natural back on the left. You're just using your athleticism. You're not thinking about it. And all of a sudden, man, I can do this, and you get your aggression going. What's he going to do? Like he's going to flourish when his technical gets up with his physical and his mental, right?
Right.
When it comes together, it's going to be dangerous because he is a nasty looking athlete. So it's just a question of where you can automate all that technique.
That makes sense. Yeah, because when your brain is still adjusting to different, coaching guidelines and rules, you're like all over the place. Eventually, what I would do, I'd be like, you know what? When I'm in the game, I'm scrapping all that. I'm just going to be me. Yeah. And then figure it out on the practice field and in meeting room. That's when I'll figure it out. But on the game field, I'm playing. I'm doing me. So
I like that group, but it's hard to say the Packers. This is one of the biggest questions of the year for us. Is Bakhtiari going to come back healthy, man? We just don't – he's still not – we haven't seen him at least in camp. Right. And you hear these reports and whatnot, but it's been a long time now. And we know that, these ACLs, all these injuries kind of come with some sub-injuries and then recovery. Everything takes different – it's not a cookie-cutter solution. Everyone's, I should be back in 8 months. Adrian Peterson came back in 6 months. What are we doing? Well, it's a completely different situation from body to body. And we're just hoping, obviously, the guy can come back and play at the level he could for his own sake. But it changes the makeup of the rooms, obviously, because arguably the top 2 or 3 player in the league at his position.
Yes.
And then it gives you freedom with Elgin Jenkins when he comes back from injury.
Mm-hmm. You guys are around now.
Yeah, you've got Myers in the middle. We're still trying to figure out the right guard. Is it going to be Royce from last year, or are we going to try somebody different? John Runyon Jr. is probably going to hold down the left guard spot. He's an ascending player going into his third year.
He's getting better and better.
You just got to – and listen, you got 2 guys that you and I both think can be Pro Bowl players at running back. You got the best player in the league at quarterback. Mm-hmm. We need a tight end desperately. Who's going to show up there? But that's a good group, man. That's actually a phenomenal. This is the 3rd generation, I think. If the group with Chad and Mike and Marco, myself and Roush, and then the group with TJ Lang and Josh Sitton and Corey Lindsey,
Darren Coolidge, Scotty Wells.
Yeah. Well, so for me, if you're asking me, the group with Sitton, Bakhtiari, Sitton, Lindsley, TJ Lang, and then the kid from Iowa, Brian Balaga.
Yeah.
That is the next, that was us 2.0. They were just the next better version of us. This group, to me, could be that next version of 3.0.
Yeah.
I just think they have the talent.
They do. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's, I think that group that you're talking about was really good. But I've been around Sitton, TJ Lang, I know I'm a guard guy, but man, they were really, really good, dude.
No, I agree. I remember coming in their rookie year, 09, 08, somewhere around there, my last year, and seeing those guys move in practice, seeing TJ move and where he could move his hips and move his body. And then, Josh.
Josh is unbelievable.
Yeah. But both of them, they could do things that you guys could do. Is
Josh looked like like a really like a running back or a sprinter, like his lower body. I know his upper body wasn't.
Yeah,
but if you looked at his legs, you'd be like, oh my God, like does he run the 400 or something? Like he was just defined. It was proportional. It was amazing.
He was an athlete too. Because I remember one time that year I came back, they signed me back in practice. We're outside field, and it's a little chilly day, and I'm running a counter. I think I did 96 power or something coming downhill. And I didn't see the play. I didn't see it while I was running play, but then watching film, he was on backside and he got tripped by somebody, but he pirouetted out of the trip into a block. Yeah. It was so impressive. I was like, I see you, Josh. I was like, okay.
Yeah, he was a really good player.
Oh man.
So listen, I think the harder side is maybe the defensive line. Now we've obviously I think everybody feels really good about who we have. Kenny Clark, Preston on one side and Rashawn Gary on the other. Mm-hmm. And then we've got a bunch of, probably 3 players now with Reed coming in, Wyatt, and then Big Bad Dean Lowry still there at the other defensive tackle spot. Like we have a really formidable group there. Obviously we have an all-pro behind him playing with Campbell. They brought in a rookie to play aside him, although I think you and I like Chris Barnes a lot. So they've got a great group. There's again, I think we can flesh out the Bears as
yeah.
I think we can flesh out the Bears. They got rid of Akeem Hicks. We don't know
Hicks is gone. That was probably
Max gone. Hicks is gone. Robert Quinn doesn't want to play there. Roquan Smith is a good player. I think he's overrated, but he's good, not great. They brought in Al Muhammad from Indianapolis. He's a good player, but he's kind of a spot player. He's a little bit undersized. He's good in the pass rush. He's more of a rotational guy than just a bona fide star. You're not going to game plan around him. A lot of these guys, if I started naming them, you wouldn't recognize their names. I don't think so.
I'm looking at the list right now.
Yeah, I just don't know if they're the guys. You go to Detroit, and we don't know what Hutchinson's going to be. Everybody thinks he's going to be as advertised just because of his pedigree.
It's going to be time. It's going to take time.
Yeah, but he is one of those guys. And I've talked about this before. Like, really good players find a way to make plays, right? True. Like good basketball players find a way to get buckets. Good soccer players find themselves in front of the goal. Kids that know how to get sacks find a way to get sacks, just effort sacks, right? Yeah. Man, how did he get that sack? He didn't beat anybody. It's like, well, he did 3 moves. Quarterback held it too long. Tough break, but he gets the sack, and that happens. And to me, you can account for 3-4 sacks a year just on kind of working your backside off, right? So he's going to get those plays, and then it's a question of can he develop to be anything else. They're still taking a chance on Charles Harris, who's the first-round pick for Miami Dolphins. They brought in Romeo Okwara to rotate. Charles was a guy that I think, in a little way, kind of rebuilt his career up in Detroit, but it's never quite panned out for that first rounder like he wanted to. Michael Brockers has been a good player in this league.
Yeah, he was with Tennessee. I'm surprised they let him go.
Yeah, are you talking about? Well, so remember when I remember when Brockers was in L.A.
Oh, that's where he was.
Right, I remember when he was in L.A. Remember, and he played that great defensive line actually with Quinn. Obviously AD.
Yes, that's who it was. So I know it was Tennessee or somewhere.
Good leverage player, but
big guy.
He's not a big numbers guy necessarily.
Space, he takes space for sure.
Yeah, and he can rush, but he's one of those guys. It's like I almost had a lot of plays today, but I didn't quite have a lot of plays today. You know what I mean? They're like the guys I don't like to play against, but they're also like that. He's not going to pad his stats against you.
No.
So they're kind of. It's just like everything else with the Lions. They're kind of on the ascent. Now, but if you look at the Vikings,
right, defense,
they got our guy.
Always been there.
Yeah, they got our guy Z. Their linebackers Hicks and
Kendricks.
Eric Kendricks are good. Daniel Hunter's, I think.
I want to say Daniel.
But he's been a guy. He's been there for like 7 years now. He's kind of hitting that. Like, if you're going to be a really good player, year 7, 8 for defensive end, like this is it, right? Your body's in tune with your mind. Like your football IQ is as high as it's going to get as far as relative to how good your body's going to feel. Harrison Phillips is coming over from Buffalo. He's just a space eater, but he can do the job until they get into nickel. Dalvin Tomlinson, kind of the same idea. But I think they have guys because their linebackers are so good, right? Yeah, and with the addition of Z, like, we played in Minnesota. We didn't play in this place, but the old Minnesota, the old Metrodome, It's so hard for an offensive lineman to get off the ball.
Yeah,
they have such an advantage on defense. I think Darius is a very special player. I know he was hurt last year, but with the impact that he made 2 years ago on this team was remarkable, both inside and outside the locker room. A lot of guys in the building will tell you that Darius Smith coming to Green Bay was the biggest impact of that offseason that included getting Matt LaFleur as a head coach.
Yeah.
Right? Just because of the way that he was able to bring kind of that Baltimore Ravens culture into the building. And so if he's able to do that at all with this team, new coaching staff, it's like it's ripe for it to happen.
It is.
They could be really, really good. So I'm not going to say they're better than the Packers. I think the Packers are the class of the division in almost all ways.
Yeah.
But this could be a very good group.
Yeah, and you say that because that defense has always been there. It's almost like Tampa Bay. It's like Tampa Bay, when you knew Tom Brady was going there, you already knew that was going to be a division leading team. They were going to win that division just because of the defense. Now they just got to figure out. So now flashback, now go back to Minnesota. They just got to figure out the offense because we already talked about it. Kirk Cousins paid a lot of money last few years, but that doesn't, doesn't show up on the field right now. Devin Cook is there. He is that running back for them. Now, if they could get that offense going and put up points and not make the mistakes that they made to lose games, because defense has been there, but offense has lost more games than they won, unfortunately. So if that defense, like you say, was Darius bring that mindset in that he brought in here year one when he was here in Green Bay, then that's a big deal for them. If that can, and that'll make this division interesting then, instead of just one-sided to the Packers right now.
AG, the only other question I want to tackle this week, because we do have another week before training camp starts, is our defensive unit has been ranked as high as number 1 projected in the league next season.
Right.
I mean, we've got that kind of star power. And it's kind of a question of, do you think, are they going to be able to live up to the hype? They finished – we talk about how good they were. Now, listen, I think missing Alexander for the majority of the season hurt more than everybody's willing to admit.
Yeah, Zaire. That was tough.
And missing, I think that we didn't miss Darius Smith as much because Preston played so well, as demonstrated by who they kept and who they didn't. Mm-hmm. But you can kind of close your eyes and go, man, if Preston was playing that well and they had Darius Smith to come in at 3 technique or stand up tackle when they were playing nickel, oh my God, that would have been a real problem.
It's very big problem. Big problem.
But it says in the last 7 games of the season, they gave up 28 points 5 times, which was tied for the worst in the league. Okay?
Yeah.
28th in points allowed down the stretch. So, and a ton of touchdown passes allowed. So you start thinking like, okay, we thought we were really good, but they were 24th in total defense.
And that's where the question comes in with Zaire being gone. And then also the safety development. And as we mentioned, we know we got very good safeties, but still have to room for improvement in terms of reading formations, reading routes, knowing the situation, being in that, one time red zone where I think it was Savage. He's not really paying attention to the situation and gets beat where he could have had a deflected pass or interception on man coverage in the red zone. So just those little things like that, those little details like that will separate the better players or better team overall to working together and making plays when they needed to. And so that stretch was that stretch right there.
It sounds crazy because we have, like we just talked, I think we have the best box players in the division. Yep. And I would argue that we have, I can't go through all of them in my mind right now, but in the NFC at least, we've got to be in the top 3 box players. So then you start looking at our secondary, right? With Amos, Savage is coming back, Amos is coming back. Now we have Alexander. We have a bunch of, Rasul Douglas is in the rotation somewhere.
He's in the rotation.
We don't know
he's
where.
Not the guy, right?
Barry's in the rotation somewhere, right? He's probably the default starter at this point with his athleticism. We don't have Kevin King. I don't think Kevin King's going to resign here.
Yeah.
And so you look at that and you go, man, Eric Stokes.
Yeah.
You look at that and you go, man, this could be a really good secondary. Now, can we live up to the hype? Can we put it together? Is Alexander going to be that guy who just turns into kind of a shutdown? We'll take away that side of the field kind of player. Is that how they want to scheme him? And we can kind of rotate over to the other side. A lot of hinges on, if you look at the best defenses in the league, they have a great pass rush, but they also have that one guy in the back in the secondary. That's like, don't worry, I'll take care of the left side of the field. You take care of the other part.
Exactly. Exactly, because you look at the Super Bowl champion, the Rams. They had Jalen Ramsey running around doing his business, and then you had Aaron Donald and crew creating problems for the run game and the pass game for teams. So that is the formula that got them that win. Not saying that's going to work for the Packers, but they have that potential same look. You have Zaire coming back, and then you're going to have Kenny Clark, Jaron Reed, all those Preston Smith, all those guys can cause problems for quarterbacks. Dean Lowry with his effort and his ability too. And now he has that veteran leadership and understanding his role as a DN. He can bring that in there along with Clean Clark and his talent. So yeah, this defense, just one or two players, one or two schemes and schematics away from being that top defense. But like you said, in that last stretch, that was a playoff stretch. It's just the points were being scored on. Obviously offense was scoring points as well. That's why you didn't really see that stat come into effect until it was too late for them.
And this is where like that first round draft pick Quay Walker, where a lot of us are going, why did you draft him? This is where you go. If you start looking at this, you go, well, okay, if you drafted him, then we can stick to our 5 core defensive backs because he is able to move out to the slot and play zone.
Yeah,
he might be able to cover he might be able to cover even these like wide receivers that are really just tall slot receivers.
Correct.
Or tight ends that are really just tall slot receivers. Yep. Like he might be able to play, so they might be able to stay in nickel longer. They don't have to bring that 6th guy, and they don't have to worry about that. So he might be the key that unlocks all that potential.
Yeah, I think that's it because you look at Barnes. It's like Barnes did fine the whole year, and along with Campbell, that combination between him and Summers too, and Campbell were okay. So it's just interesting. So I think they're thinking like that. They have an athlete that he could move around that defensive front for some reason. So hopefully that's probably what their mindset is. So we'll just got to wait and see what that looks like, basically.
It should be fun. It's
interesting.
Let's hit this, man.
Yeah, I saw both of these. I'm like, well, I saw the one. I don't know what you're saying with the second one, but the first one, I'll let you.
So get off my lawn with this. Okay, this is just nuts, right? So the USC UCLA,
yes,
the LA market of the Pac-12, which is the vast majority of if you look at the Pac-12 and you go, okay, from Oregon all the way to Utah to Arizona down in Tucson, where do the majority of the people live? And you're like, Los Angeles. Yeah, right. That's the number 2 market in the country. They just removed themselves and they're going to the Big Ten, which now puts the Big Ten all the way from Rutgers, Baltimore, right, all the way to the East Coast, all the way to the West Coast.
West Coast, yes.
Right? And
they call it an airplane conference.
Oh, my God. So you got Maryland, you got Rutgers in New York, and now you got Los Angeles. You got Chicago with Illinois. You got Chicago Northwest. You just go, oh, my God. And so they're still not the SEC, but 2 super conferences. And I look at it like this, AG. I don't know how you look at it, but I look at it like, dude, if I'm a football player, I'm kind of going, oh, this is great. Like, I get more. I love it, right? I love all because to me, this looks like now we're going to have a bigger conference playoff. Like, eventually they're going to go, well, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to have a conference playoffs, right? They're going to have like 6-8 teams. They're going to play. Those are going to be bigger games, more money. I'm going to get more stuff, more NIL, but it's all going to be good for the players. It's be good for the coaches. It'll be good for the schools.
Right.
What I think about is like, what about the rowing team or, like the tennis team?
Right.
I go, dude, like if I'm now I guess you can recruit everywhere, which is good. But like now the coaches are like, God, I got to recruit everywhere, which sucks. Like I heard the men's basketball team for USC, all of the team is from California. Like they don't have to recruit anywhere else because it's California. Now they got like almost obligated to recruit across the country.
They have
to,
right?
But then you look at like women's tennis or I don't know, softball or rowing, whatever. You start looking and you're like, dude, why do I have to go to New York to row? Or why do I have to travel across the country to play a tennis match?
That's what I was thinking. What I was thinking. I'm like, man, the coverage that we have to do as LA teams and other sports, like you said, other sports, that part didn't cross my mind till now. And now I'm just like, okay. Now
I just think it's a bad idea.
It obviously we know it's just it's a money play. I remember the conversation that was brought up, years ago when we were playing professional ball, where they're saying, hey, there's going to be in another 20 years, it's going to be either 4 big conferences or 2 or 3, super conferences. And now we're here. And it started way back when we were playing college ball, where they couldn't figure out who's going to be number one in the coaches voting or the AP polls. It's like that's how this conversation started, and now we're here. And to see this big movement it's crazy, because like my first reaction when I saw it across, it was over the weekend, and I saw it, my first reaction like, what the F? Like, this is about to happen? It's like, man. And then you talk about schools that have never really been in a conference and kind of been floating around, like Notre Dame. That is another little interesting, thing going on around this, around all what this is going on. It's just interesting to see, these, like you say, population, 5 million, 6 million people in Los Angeles. Now it's just going to be interesting to see. That's really all I could say right now. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Football, baseball, like for all the other sports too, that is going to be interesting. And so for me, the only thing I'm looking forward to see is these commercials on how they're going to advertise and what they're really going to call it. They're going to call the number the right number. They keep lying to us and saying,
Big
it's
Ten.
Only, yeah,
right.
It's 14, it's 16 teams in the Big Ten. Call it the Big 16, please.
So you think about what do we have? How many teams are in the national champion in the playoffs now?
I think it got bumped up to 6. It got bumped up to 6 now. It was 4 in previous years.
Okay, so here's some teams in the Southeastern Conference. Tell me if they have a shot. Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Auburn, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Florida, Tennessee. Oklahoma now.
Right.
You start going. Yeah, wait, how is this even going to work? So there's the entire there's your 6. Actually, there's more than 6.
More than 6.
Then you look over and you go, okay, well, we got the Big Ten, Ohio State, but it's USC, UCLA, which UCLA hasn't really been. USC hasn't kind of risen back to Pete Carroll days, but you got to kind of figure with Lincoln Riley showing up now and all the money that the players can make in Los Angeles, NIL money.
Correct. Everything's there. Everything's there.
It's just like you played at a big school. I didn't play at a big school, but football's football. We like wherever you're playing is the place to be. That's the best thing about sports. But I can't fully comprehend right now where these other schools are going to get money. Like, I don't know who's going to do a TV deal with the Pac-10 now. Who would do a TV deal? And SDSU's they're like, now it's time for us to get part of the Pac-10. And you're like,
there's nobody on the broadcast.
Who cares? I no offense, but who cares if you're in or not? It doesn't make any difference. You're not USC.
Right. Nobody. We're not going to show you. We're not going to broadcast you. We're going to maybe get 20,000 people. That's a no. Unfortunately, that sucks for those smaller schools. I mean, that is the reality of it, which is crazy. So, yeah, get off my line with this.
For real.
I don't even know who to be mad at here, to be honest. I just know it's a mess.
I think it's just the NCAA.
Okay.
I just think the NCAA has mucked this up so bad for so long that teams are just like, you know what, dude, we really don't need you. Like, it's about time.
That's true.
And I love that part of it. You just see what's going to happen is it's going to be like, I read this article this weekend. Actually, I think it was like in the New York Wall Street Journal or something. They were talking about we should just go to like English Premier League relegation league where you have a top team.
I love that.
You have top 20, and they're the only teams that can get into like the championship. And you can play your way in, you can play your way out year to year, right? And it's there's some the Super League. They were trying to do that in soccer. They're trying to do that in Europe with the Super League. Mm-hmm. There's a handful of teams that were permanent members, but really there's about 6-8 teams that every year you get relegated, you get brought back up, and it actually makes a lot of sense. But I don't know if they'll be able to do that anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think we can figure it out over here.
No, not me.
No, the people running the show here in America, they cannot figure out regulation.
So this last one I had, AG.
Yeah, what's this one?
Yeah, okay. So it goes along the same thing. So I'm on one of the websites, and they're showing me how VAR, which is virtual assisted replay. Okay. In soccer, okay, if they have a new system that they can that they're going to use at the Qatar World Cup this winter. Okay. And what it basically does is it's got like 27 cameras around each stadium, which the NFL can afford. All it's called Big Falls Football can afford. And every single play, it's basically slicing it like an MRI machine into these thousands of panes. And so they can figure out whether a player's offsides or not, whether a ball goes into the goal or not, et cetera, right? And they can tell because there's a chip in the soccer ball The minute there's pressure on the ball, they can figure out where the players are, and like that, they can go, guys offsides, guys not offsides, continue play, stop the game. It's a goal, it's not a goal. Super easy, right?
Right.
So the technology is available, and we are still using sideline change because we think it's nostalgic. It's the dumbest. Like, how many missed spots have there been over the last 50 years? And we still use this archaic, way of doing business when clearly, like I'm on a phone call with coaches across the NFL on Fridays. Sometimes one of them, a lot of them deal with in-game decisions, and so they know all the metrics as far as how many, like on a Sunday night football game, Monday night football for Thursday night football versus a regular Sunday game, how many cameras are in the stadium at one time. Right. And the numbers, like I'm not going to make up the number because I can't remember, but you'd be like, oh my God, I had no idea there was that many. And so there's all these cameras there. All you have to do is make a couple permanent fixtures, and you have all your problems solved. Did he make a first down? Did he not? Was he in bounds? Was he out of bounds? Like all of these things that they have to send to New York could be solved by technology.
Right.
And we're still not doing it. We still have all these problems, and it cuts down on time that players got to sit around and wait for the replay.
That's 100%. Yeah. To have the chain gang, over, you got up-to-date tech to help you make a decision. Sound like a money thing.
Maybe you're just testing. It's like I always think it's like the McRib sandwich. Like let somebody else try it and see if they want to eat it. And then we'll put it in later, but it's got to be coming because it just makes too much sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to keep working on that level when you can bring in good stuff like that to help the game get refereed, decisions made a lot faster. So. All right, we're coming to the end of the show right here, Mike. Man, good job. Good show here talking about what is going on between the few weeks before training camp kicks off. I believe it's July 22nd or 23rd, something like that. It kicks off here in Green Bay. So when that time happens here in about 2.5 weeks, we can talk about these boys in real time. But until then, we'll be coming up, finishing at the back half of the Packers regular season schedule, giving our thoughts and who's going to win and what those games are going to be like coming up on the next podcast here next week. So follow us on iHeart, on Apple, download us, rate us, review us, give us that information that we need to get better. And Mike, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, Mike168 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram. AG, always a pleasure. I did want to say one thing. I was on Twitter today, and there's 68 days left before the first kickoff team. So they always do no. So listen, here's what happened.
Okay.
I don't know how I found this. Somebody hit me up on it and she sent it to me. Donald Driver's 68-yard touchdown is what they show instead of one of my highlights. And I go, hey man, I got to have one highlight.
You have highlights.
He just buried me in one sentence. He's like, yeah, man, they're hard to find.
I've seen the post 30 days and they show like my highlight.
The guy completely buried me, man.
There's a Mike Wall highlight around there too. I know it. You can find it.
I'm telling you, that's how I said. Just why don't you send that to my kids and just say Loserville.
Oh man! Speaking of kids, I hope your daughter heals well.
Thank you.
Everything goes where there, and also you can find me on MindGreen30 on Twitter and Instagram. And Mike, see you next week.
How about